All right. Hello there, my fellow veterans. How you doing this evening? Um, Unfortunately, we're going to start the show on a sad note today. A friend of mine who's a veteran, and he happens to run the Cleveland chapter of Irreverent Warriors. His 19-year-old son was murdered at Camp Lejeune last week. So we are going to dedicate this show to the memory of Lance Corporal Austin Schwank. It's a tragedy that's hitting here in Northeast Ohio pretty hard, and we're doing everything we can to help our friend through this tragic situation. So if y'all could keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and send the Schwank family some positive energy to help them get through this, would be highly appreciated. And we'll go ahead and get the show started here. So let me. You all know about the intro video, so here we go. All right, everybody. We got a good show for you. We have a repeat offender here with us today.
I am that. Ask anybody.
Yeah, but the offenses you do are helping veterans across this country. So everyone, please meet Micaela Bensko. She is returning for her second time on this show. Back when you were one of my first episodes when it was first called the Gulf War Advocate.
Okay.
It is now changed to Veterans Central because one, we were only getting Gulf War veterans watching the show, and we want to help all veterans and their families. So, plus my wife and I talked. This is probably new to you. I think we talked about it in a couple emails. But my wife and I, we decided that I should go ahead and start an organization called Veterans Assurance Network. Mm-hmm. And you know that we're building a network of all this really good nonprofits out there that actually do some good for veterans. So, and the reason for that was when I was in Washington, D.C., and we were doing the fire watch when we were sleeping on the steps before the PACT Act finally got passed. Several veterans went up to our larger nonprofits asking for assistance, and they were turned away, saying, well, I can understand a nonprofit saying, hey, look, we only help 9/11 post 9/11 veterans. We only help Gulf War veterans. I can understand that. But the thing that got me is they didn't offer him any information on who could help them. So that's why we're starting this network, so we can eliminate that. So if a veteran goes to one nonprofit and they say, hey, look, unfortunately, we can't help you, but we know who can. So let's help you get in contact with them. So, and Micaela has been very kind in stating that she'll start helping us with this. So now you run a nonprofit called Veterans in Pain.
Right.
What is Veterans in Pain?
So Veterans in Pain, VIP, yes. We are a nonprofit that facilitates fiscally accessible, regenerative, and interventional non-surgical solutions for veterans suffering from chronic pain. And so that includes a multitude of types of therapies and treatments. So it's not just biologics, regenerative, but, hyperbaric therapy and peptides and select ganglion blocks and ketamine therapy and psychedelics and, a slew of things that it takes, and brain health. It's a huge cornerstone of what we're trying to do, because without that, nothing else really takes hold, does it?
That's true. And how did VIP get started?
Um, so, so Veterans in Pain happened to be, it was actually like, it took years for something to happen overnight. And since 2007, I was vice president of rebuildingamericaswarriors.org, and that provides free reconstructive surgery for combat wounded 9/11 forward. And in 2011, I had my own accident, and I ended up with over 20 spine surgeries and procedures. I was in bed 6 years, 90% of the time, with a disease of the spine called arachnoiditis, complicated by CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. They're the two most painful conditions in pain medicine today. They call each of them a suicide disease. So on the McGill pain scale of 1 to 10, they're technically 1,000. And the more that I've been doing this, the more I've realized it's probably, both of those are probably two of the most underdiagnosed conditions in our veteran population today, especially for spine. And so finally, one day, a friend of mine who had also been diagnosed with arachnoiditis of the spine said, have you ever heard of stem cells? And I'm like, well, I've heard of them. I don't know if I trust them, but I've heard of them. So I said, you go have your treatment. It was in Scottsdale, and it was 2017. And I said, I'll watch. So $24,000, and it was an IV adipose derived, meaning fat derived stem cell treatment. These are no longer allowed in the States, by the way. You have to go out of the country. Anyway, she went, and within 48 hours, she could move the toes on her left foot. She hadn't moved in 13 years. And within 6 weeks, she was walking her son to school, and I had been helping her to pick out wheelchairs before she left.
Wow.
So I'm in, and we had a fundraiser, and we're able to go out to Scottsdale. I had my own procedure. And the thing is with arachnoiditis and my condition, what the issue mostly was is I was having labor type contractions within my spinal cord every 10 to 15 minutes around the clock for weeks, sometimes a couple months. So that's why I was in bed so much. Within 24 hours, they were gone. I'd been battling them for 6 years. So there was definitely, without question, this was doing something very effective and therapeutic. And for all the years I've been working with veterans that were going through reconstructive surgery, there's a group of about 5, and it ended up being my support system throughout my challenge. Like, the tables kind of flipped. And I learned so much about them and the pain conditions they are suffering, whether it's degenerative over time or it's a surgery that went wrong, those kinds of things. And that they have nothing, veterans have nothing therapeutically, really, for pain control. You have a pain management department, and you have prescriptives, and sure, you might have some physical therapy over here, a little bit of acupuncture over here, nothing cohesive and nothing multidisciplinary that functions together for a result, right? So I was sitting in my doctor's office one day and thought, well, Veterans in Pain, that's VIP, that's a cool name. Now what do we do? And started reaching out, and I thought, these solutions need to be available to our veterans. It's ridiculous that they're not. So I got very lucky very, very quickly, and had wonderful people come to support the best regenerative specialists in the world. Organizations such as MSITE are supporting us. They provide the kits. We have Interventional Orthobiologic Foundation and the Orthobiologic Institute that supported us early on. And so it was baptism by fire. And we literally was baptism by fire. And I ended up going back to school, and I got my, like, it's exciting, but I just got my certification in genetics and genomics from Stanford. That was a huge thing. I'm like 53. And so far we established VIP, and so far we have about over 200 doctors all across the country. And we've accepted over 540 veterans to our program.
Oh, wow.
So we've been busy.
Yes, you've actually grown as an organization since the last time you were on. So that's awesome. And
very lucky.
Now you mentioned one thing that's been in the news quite a bit. And then I know of a couple organizations that are advocating for this, and that's psychedelic treatment. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on that some?
There is a lot of science now that's being developed concretely as to the effects of psychedelics on PTSD, TBI, chronic pain, even. I'm not the expert in that field, so the organization that we refer to for that is Heroic Hearts Project, led by Jesse Gould. They're amazing, and they take groups of veterans, they go to Costa Rica, and they have physicians that participate. They do it for scientific purposes. They're doing studies. They're taking down hard data collection. And so hopefully that's one of the things that we're hoping that we can bring to the US at some point. Yeah.
Yes. I actually had an organization on a couple of months ago that's advocating for psychedelics. And it started out with 9/11 first responders that worked at Ground Zero.
Oh, really?
The guys with John Field in them. And a lot of them suffer from what's called cluster headaches.
Yes.
And one of the firemen actually advocated with us for the PACT Act. And he was a good friend of John Field, so he decided to help us. And God, when his cluster headaches would kick in, he's just down. It's affects. I guess it affects you worse than a migraine does, and everybody knows how bad migraines can be. So,
right.
They got a kick going now to try to get psychedelics as far as legal treatments go. But one thing, folks, that they stressed is do not go out and get these on your own. Mm-hmm. Don't go out into the woods and try to find these. All right.
Right.
Stick with the professionals.
Yeah.
Like Micaela here. Get with VIP and see if they can help you with this.
Well, it's interesting for anything to do with TBI and PTSD, especially TBI and brain inflammation, lesions on the brain. Mm-hmm. A TBI doesn't need to happen just because of a literal concussion, mechanical concussion, right? It could be sound derived as well. But the results are inflammation within the brain, lesions on the brain, and interrupting of the synapses that go on in the brain in order for everything to function properly. But the one thing that I've seen so many amazing results with is hyperbaric therapy. And Grunt Style has launched a coalition for the same thing, for hyperbaric oxygen therapy, for it to be accepted and as a norm within the VA treatment system. One of the most frustrating things in advocacy is that what I think a lot of people don't understand is that each VA functions independently.
Right.
So they say it's a system, well, kind of, but you have a lot of different players, and then they decide where they go to lunch every day. So independently. So, it's about that footwork of bringing awareness to these specific modalities to each VA and speaking with the administrators of these VAs and primary care physicians and getting the word out that these are not just being tested anymore. These are proven. And, with VIP, we don't really use the term stem cell. It's kind of a misnomer anyway. Regenerative solutions are they could be PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. They extract your blood, put it through a centrifuge, extract the regenerative properties, hyaluronic acids and growth factors and proteins, which cause an inflammatory response, which in turn instigates the regeneration of tissue, but it's not stem cell. So prolotherapy, we do this a lot with the spine. It's an injection of essentially sugar water, but it's about causing that exact reaction that it creates an environment for regeneration of the tissue. So it can be very powerful. But I want everybody to kind of get away from the term stem cell a little bit. I mean, there are stem cells in these certain procedures, but we like to look at it as regenerative medicine.
Yeah, and I know a couple of people have gone down to South America to get that done. I don't know much about that type of therapy though. Um, does it seem to work for everybody, or is it just like certain illnesses that it works for?
Well, when you're looking at psychedelics or you're looking at ketamine therapy, we're going to talk more, we put a little umbrella on these types of treatments for a minute.
Okay.
It all comes down to brain signaling. So, chronic pain, it's not just chronic pain, it's a systemic disease of the central nervous system. It's, when you bounce a ball, you drop a ball and it's bouncing, and eventually it'll stop. That's because there's gravity. Gravity is the inhibitor. Well, our bodies have the same thing. So we have
Mhm.
brain pain signaling. And the disease is that our inhibitors no longer function properly. So when we have pain signaling going on, they're not in there to do the job. They can't calm down the brain signaling. So you have a constant mania of signaling going on. This could be for chronic pain, it can be for PTSD, but it's basically the same superhighway. And so let's talk about ketamine. So, intensive IV ketamine therapy, where you go into a clinical treatment with an IV a few hours a day. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 2. And you do that for a series of 5 to 10 days. And what you're doing with that is you're resetting the brain back to its most primal state. So it kind of cuts off all of the madness in the signaling, and it allows your body to reset. So
Oh,
when you're dealing with any type of medication, whether it's plant-based or otherwise, the job is essentially the same, is rewiring what's going on. With PTSD, the issue is that signaling is going at 1,600 miles an hour all the
yeah.
time. So the minute something causes them to step on the accelerator, they're off. Whereas for a
Mhm.
normal person, you got to get your keys, get your purse, get in the car, get to the freeway.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll get to 60 miles an hour. But that's how essential it is to address that. The brain signaling and inflammation within the brain, both. And oxygen therapy does that. So with oxygen therapy, if you're in an industrial chamber, an HBOT chamber, you're sitting in there. You probably have a few other people in there with you. And the oxygen helps to feed healthy cells, to eradicate
Mm.
unhealthy cells. And it's an anti-inflammatory. So it's incredibly effective. 90% of pain is inflammation. So,
Yes.
how's the best way to address pain? It's by getting rid of inflammation. So, how do you do that? You can do that with hyperbaric. You can do it with HBOT therapy. You can do it. Do it with ketamine, but you can also do that with everyday decisions, and that begins with, everybody hates to hear it: cut out sugar. Cut out
Yes.
sugar. Sugar causes inflammation, and carbohydrates turn into sugar, which causes inflammation. Alcohol turns into
Isn't that
sugar.
sugar?
So I stopped all sugars, and I remember my husband and I went out to dinner one time. I was so excited to be out of the house, and like, I'm gonna have a whiskey, just a little sip. Let's have a little bit of whiskey. Hadn't had sugar in a few months. And within 60 seconds, my spine started to burn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, we have to, you have to be a proactive patient, as much as you can when you're in chronic pain and suffering from. It's a disease. It's a disease. It's an inflammatory autoimmune disease.
Now, I want to go ahead and remind our audience who's watching live that the chat is open. So if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we'll get you on the show. Now, what, as far as inflammation goes, what do you think is the best treatment for it other than just cutting out sugars?
Other than the easy way, huh?
Yes.
Oh, anti-inflammatories. Gosh,
Because you
gosh.
got to admit, almost everything that's food wise that's made here in the
Mhm.
States has sugar in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Anti-inflammatories. You're talking. I keep going back to oxygen therapy. I
Mm.
really do. And that's been a huge component in the success that we've had lately. Also, because a lot of people also don't know, I didn't realize that hyperbaric therapy also is like a booster for regenerative procedures. So you can have hyperbaric therapy after you have a regenerative procedure, and it's proven to enhance the results of regenerative procedures. Anti-inflammatory is it's something that it's such a simple concept, but it
Mm.
really does take a lot of more proactiveness on the patient's part. So like, yeah, what about that? But let's put that over here. But what can we do here? And I can't emphasize enough what we do to our bodies that can, even if you're overdoing something and you have pain, in a certain area that you suffer from, and you go out and you overdo something, you're creating acute inflammation, and that causes more pain. So that's why a lot of people in pain can't really have physical therapy, because then it increases the inflammation. Ice is really, ice is the go-to as well.
Mhm.
Regenerative therapies are it's interesting, because the way they work is by, not all inflammation is bad. So PRP or bone marrow aspirate concentrate, or any of these procedures, they work by creating inflammation within the joint.
Hmm.
So you're very often in more pain afterwards than you were before, because again, more inflammation is more pain, but the inflammation is what causes the cellular interactions that then results in the tissue regeneration. So
Oh
that's
boy.
cyclical. So you have cycles of inflammation and pain for a good 6 to 9 months, which is what
Hmm.
it takes for a regenerative solution to come to fruition. But I think I'm babbling, so I don't know that I even answered your question.
Actually, I think you
But
did. Um, and looks like my brother from another mother, one of my very best friend here, wants to say hello. Kevin Hensley from Michigan,
ah,
who is,
Kevin.
yeah, you definitely know Kevin, who is
Yeah.
probably the most active veteran as far as advocating for
Mm,
HBOT in this country. This man is doing some fantastic work in getting HBOT recognized.
yep.
Matter of fact, Kevin, I do believe up there in Michigan, you got some legislation either pending or passed to get HBOT as far as a recognized treatment for veterans. Is that correct? We'll wait for him to answer, but um,
Well,
now,
I know that Kevin's been doing a lot of pounding the pavement. He just went to
yes.
DC, just got back, and
Hmm.
he's creating change. He's making an impact, and legislators are starting to listen.
Yes, they are. Yes, he is doing some fantastic work up there. And as far as HBOT goes, can you explain the procedures for HBOT? Because I know a lot of
Mhm.
people are just now just starting to learn about what HBOT is.
Okay, so HBOT, let's call it oxygen therapy. So
Okay.
there's different types of oxygen therapy. So if you wanted to start out with this type of therapy and kind of put your toe in the water, one way to do it is you can find, very often it's a med spa in your area, and ozone IV therapy is something where they extract your blood, they expose it to UV light, and so it's not O2 at that point, it's O3, which is important. And they put the blood back into your body, and that's oxygen therapy. It just happens to be, a different deployment of it.
Right.
Then there are
Hmm.
actually soft chambers, the soft shell chambers that you can purchase for your home. And it's a fantastic thing to do. I have one in my home, that after I saw the results our vets were getting, and I still had PTSD and I still had, levels of chronic pain. And so the way that, and I can't get out much, it's difficult for me to drive or to go anywhere. So it paid off for us to get one for the home. And it's kind of like being in an amazing cocoon. It became my retreat. I was like in a spa every time I went in. But you lay in there, it fits one person pretty much. You have room, roll around a little bit, and you zip yourself up in it, and you do every session we call a dive. So, maybe an hour a day, hour and a half a day. But you don't want to do too much oxygen, because too much oxygen is a bad thing.
Right.
And too much of anything is a bad thing, I think. And then you have the industrial chambers. So you need a prescription in order to purchase a soft shell chamber, in order to have, industrial hyperbaric therapy. Healing Arizona Veterans is a program out of Tucson, Arizona. They have taken in dozens of our veterans, and they have an amazing industrial HBOT chamber there. I believe it sits 5 to 6 veterans at a time. And they also do brain diagnostics. They do blood panels. So it's kind of an A to Z type of program. And so they provide a good 60 to 90 days worth of pro bono hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And it's run by a neurologist named Dr. Carol Henricks. She's amazing. There's another veteran program, pro bono hyperbaric therapy, that also includes housing and for TBI. Both of these are TBI centric. And the other one is the Rocky Mountain Hyperbaric Institute. That's a wonderful one. Eddie Gomez founded that. So it's those are two off the top of my head, really great programs. There is a blog we have. I can send it to you when we're done, of my personal experience with hyperbaric therapy, the goods and the bads, what you need to look out for, and the risks involved, and things like, you don't want to go in and smoke a cigarette. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's certain things that you want to stay away from. But those are the three, that I would highlight.
Now, just so our audience doesn't get confused, when Micaela mentioned dive, the reason they use the term dive is because these chambers were originally designed to help deep sea divers combat the bends.
Right.
So that's why they use the term dive. So every time you go into the chamber, they call it a dive. So that's where that terminology came from.
And one thing Kevin mentioned the other day, we were having a committee meeting for the Grunt Style Coalition, and they were talking about diabetic wounds. And what I learned, I don't know the exact statistics, so I don't dare, but it was hundreds of thousands of veterans who die annually from complications due to diabetic wounds. And hyperbaric therapy is covered for diabetic wounds, and that's one of the primary uses for it since the beginning has been surface wounds. So and it's a compressed environment. It comes with they're an air compressor. So like my in-home unit has an air compressor and oxygen mask on the inside, and it inflates, and your ears pop a little bit. So if you have like ear problems or something like that, then you probably are going to have a harder time if you can't adjust. But yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that with these soft shell chambers, that in some states they're not allowed.
I don't know about that, but there is something else that's important to state about them. Is they don't have the atmospheric pressure within an industrial unit is, I believe, around 2.0, 2.1, and 2 atmospheres. The ones that are for in the home run around 1.3, 1.4. It doesn't mean that you can't get results. It just means that it may take longer for you to ultimately get the results.
Now, when you're researching clinics and doctors and everything, what do you look for to see if the doctor might be a good fit for VIP?
Sure. Word of mouth is huge for us. And we try now to rely mostly on word of mouth. Birds of a feather flock together. We have the
Hmm.
organizations that we can go to and we say, we need a physician in Arkansas. Do you happen to have anybody? They'll show us their name and the application on our website. They apply through our website officially, and it brings up their medical number as well. Obviously, we want their heart to be in it. This is not something we want just any physician to be doing in our program. It needs to be a combination. Our veterans have been traumatized when they are suffering from chronic pain for years until
Hmm.
they finally have this ray of hope. So what our nightmare is they walk into a doctor's office and the front desk doesn't know who they are, or they get treated a certain way, or they feel dismissed. So what we do is an experience that it's 50% for the physician and 50% for the veteran, of a tangible opportunity to do something real. And
Mm.
I know that's weird to say, but what I mean by that is connecting on a personal basis with your patient and a little bit of a enhanced experience of healing. We have the Gulf Coast Biologics is incredibly active with our program. So with Gulf Coast and Insight, they are conducting Bioilluminate 4, and it's a symposium coming up November 10th through the 12th in
Mm.
Fort Myers. Now, so for years, symposiums and conferences have been utilizing cadavers in their instructional sessions. And so what we're doing is they are allowing and inviting actually our veterans. We have a small group of veterans, about 5 to 6, that go in each time they have a symposium, and they are the recipients of the treatments that they're instructing for the physicians who attend. So it's completely pro bono, and it's something that we're doing more and more with different organizations, because our physicians end up going fishing with with the veteran that they treated, or they get a Christmas card the next year. And it sounds Pollyanna, but but when you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of things,
Hmm.
incredibly important is we always check out the website. That's probably one of the first things we do for signs of FDA compliance and lack thereof. Because a
Mm.
couple of years ago, the FDA just became very, very stern about this field and need things to be done accordingly. So none of these procedures are FDA approved, but they can be conducted within FDA compliance guidelines. And
Oh, okay.
so we ensure that our physicians are operating within those parameters.
Yeah, the Food and Drug Administration can be a stickler sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a whole other interview
Yes, yes, that is.
for sure.
We'll leave that to a different podcast.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly.
Now, if a veteran thinks that your organization might be able to help them, what are the prerequisites that a veteran must have in order to get into your program?
Sure. So we try to keep things simple, and that's pretty much how we try to function with all of our workflows. So the it's a 3-step process for the application. They'll fill out our application. I'll send them the links. They contact us through the website. Email me through the website, email us. And then I will send out the 3 steps to apply, which is an application form, which we do need your DD 214, and
Hmm.
that's important. And then a waiver that you sign, and an interview. So we schedule they average about an hour each intake session with every single veteran to fully grasp as much as possible what is really going on with them. Are they candidates for regenerative medicine? Was there an inciting incident years ago and then it was degenerative over time? Is it something that's acute? Have they tried physical therapy before? But really listening to their story and conducting a physician match or a submission for a physician match in the most comprehensive manner possible. So we also make sure that their MRIs are updated. I would say if anybody wants to have regenerative solutions, whether it's through us or otherwise, I would say one of the most important things for that is MRI imaging. So these are the reason why X-rays don't really help is they're bone based.
Yes.
So right, so everything with regenerative medicine just about soft tissue regeneration. So MRIs are soft tissue imaging,
Right.
and that's how they can tell exactly where the damaged tissue is, how much of it there is, and what they'll need to do, and how they're going to need to approach that particular problem. So, in general, you want to have them fairly current from within the previous 6 to 9 months. And we'll submit the case with the whole case summary, our intake notes, the MRIs, any medical reports that they want to send us, and imaging reports. If you have X-rays, great, we'll send those too, and then we'll submit them to a physician that we feel is an appropriate match. If we don't have a physician in the veterans area, then another organization that we love, and we've worked with them for many years now, if they have to fly, we use Veterans Airlift Command, and that's
Yes.
veteransairlift.org. They are amazing. All of their pilots, it's the larger private planes, so it's a lot of fun for our veterans as well. It's kind of interesting, and they get a little bit, pampered a little bit, but they volunteer their planes, their services. It's completely pro bono for our veterans to travel. And Angel Flight West, I'm sure many have heard about that. So they're more shorter hops that way. So, and a lot of people ask if our program is pro bono. So
Yes.
it all comes down to funding. And when the pandemic hit, our funding was just decimated. And so, we're having a tricky time catching up to where we were. So we used to be able to cover our physicians volunteer their services and their consults at no cost to the veteran. However, there are very often hard costs involved. So that might be an OR fee, not that it's surgical, but regenerative solutions for the spine especially are usually conducted within an OR for sterility purposes, and that they have a fluoroscope, which is like live video imaging, so they can see exactly what they're doing while they're in there. So that could run around $1,600, and a nursing assistant fee might be $600. However, if you were to go somewhere else, and the usual and customary cost to address the basic issue within the spinal cord with regenerative medicine, say BMAC, bone marrow, it can run anywhere, conservatively, I think would be 10,000 and up.
Yeah.
And cash, and none of these are covered by insurance.
Right.
So we used to be able to cover those hard costs. And now, if we don't have the funding, then the veteran has to cover those costs, and their hotel, which we used to always also be able to cover. So we're having to get very creative. We have a veteran resources page on our website as well for trusted nonprofit organizations for funding that they can go to. We try to help as much as we can, refer them as much as we can, just like you do, for what they're doing. So
now, I've had a few organizations on who get people to donate air miles.
Yes.
Can people donate air miles to you folks?
My gosh, I think we should open that division. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I can tell you another organization that's called Luke's Wings, and
Yes, I'm looking into them.
lukeswings.org. Yeah, so you can donate your miles to Luke's Wings, and they help family members of veterans that are in hospital to travel to and from to visit their loved one. Yeah, it's a great organization.
Yes. Now the first airline you mentioned that helps veterans out, I've been talking to them too, because my wife and I have been looking into a service dog for me. And
Okay.
they said they will fly me anywhere I need to go
Oh, aren't they
to
just
go
the
get trained
best?
with the dog. So, 'cause
I
yes.
love them. Jenna
Mhm.
Dybell is the
I'm
operations
tr
officer there, and I just want
for
to hug her every day. Yeah.
for some reason, they do not want to come on and talk about themselves. So I'm still trying to get them to do that. Hopefully one day they'll say, yes, we'll do it. And
Well, good. I'll talk about them for them. So
there we go.
yeah, yeah.
Now, when a veteran finally does get into your program, do you try to match them up with a physician or a doctor close to where they live, or?
Yeah, we will. First of all, it's sometimes it's not just one doctor,
Mhm.
because we may need to address the TBI first, brain health first. Sometimes if you don't treat the brain first, and you're going to do a procedure on a knee or a hip, it's kind of like putting a new door on a house that's burning down, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So it may be several doctors, but the one thing that we won't do is sacrifice quality of care for ease of use or location. So especially if we're dealing with, we needs to be the right match. I can't send somebody suffering from spine pain to a specialist who specializes only in joints,
Mhm.
and also they need to be well versed in spine. Spine is not something you mess with, especially cervical spine. And
Yep.
there are very few cervical spine regenerative specialists that we would have in our network. So sometimes they do need. One of our most active, I just have to say his name. One of our most active physicians in our entire network is Dr. Chinook Patel. He is in Orange County, and he's treated me, he's treated my husband, and he's treated dozens of veterans. Uh, I mean, we have so many amazing physicians. Dr. Darrington down in Oceanside. We're in Southern California, so
Mhm.
they're so active with us. But I probably shouldn't even have said that much, because now I feel bad because we have so many amazing doctors. Yeah, we're very lucky to have the quality of care that we do. But yeah, so sometimes they may be able to have something locally, another procedure they may have to travel for.
Oh, that's good. Good,
Yeah,
good.
so if
Mhm.
physicians, if you specialize in interventional solutions, whether it's physical therapy, any of these things that we've talked about, please apply through our site. You can go to the physician link on the front
Oh, yeah,
page,
let me go ahead and
and
put that up there.
yeah, it takes you to, there's an overview of our workflow there that you can soak in, and our application form is there, and then we'll have a nice chat, and I'll answer all the questions that you ask. And another question that we get a lot is how much of your donations go to the program and how much goes to administration. Well, we are all volunteer. There are no salaries with VIP. Nobody is paid. So any funds that do come in, a small amount will go to the costs of our website maintenance, the apps and programs that we use to be able to do what we do, that kind of thing. But the program itself, if we have funds, that's going directly to the veterans' needs.
Yes. Matter of fact, I believe you get 4 stars on Charity Navigator.
Oh, yay.
Yeah,
Yay
and
for
that's the
us.
highest ranking you can get. So,
Yay. Oh, that's nice.
yes,
That's nice. We
that's what
try. We really try.
that's one of the things I'm trying to educate veterans on, is when they're looking into nonprofits, is they need to look them up on a site called Charity Navigator, because that tells them how much of the donations go to veterans and how much goes to administration and everything. People be surprised at, like, all your real famous big time nonprofits, how much actually goes to pay the employees, and how much or how little goes to actually helping veterans. So,
and I think we need to be really careful when we're looking at percentages, though, because
yes, yes,
a small organization, we're essentially a mom and pop organization,
right,
and right, and so 1 year we may have tens of thousands of dollars, and we're able to do a lot of things. 1 year we may have $4,000. And only be able to do certain things, but administrative, the website costs and everything take 1,000, and then, oh my God, that's 35%. I don't know if I'm doing my math
yeah,
right,
right,
is going to administration. And yeah, I just want everybody, be more open-minded. But yes, it's just something. It just created itself that way. That's how it feels best to me. So that's how
well,
we operate.
that's one of the reasons why I like this site called Charity Navigator. They take all that into perspective, and so they'll know 1 year you'll get a lot of donations. The next year you may not get hardly any. So they take that into, they look at that as well. And so it looks like pretty much ever since you've been in existence, you've had a 4-star rating. So there you go, folks. This is definitely an organization you can trust.
Oh, thank you. And we are a village, and I think what makes our village special, as far as our core team, Kane McQuinley, Sharon Jackson, she was a representative for the state of Alaska. We're working with Alaska right now and trying to bring legislation there, and they're so open-minded and amazing. So our team are those that have been through it. Sharon suffered a stroke and had to learn to walk again. Kane had a major brain injury, and now he's just killing it. He's our corporate relations officer, so he helps us with outreach to different organizations or companies, I should say. If we need a certain biologic here tool here that they might donate or provide at cost, all that stuff. Kane takes care of all of that.
Fantastic.
So yeah, Dr. David Shulkin is on our board of directors. We're so grateful to him, and he's been through so much. He has a chronic pain program now with his daughter Jennifer, and I want to send that information as well. It's really important. It's a pain coaching program that I'd like to bring awareness to as well.
Matter of fact, our friend Kevin Hensley introduced me to Dr. Shulkin in DC on one of our trips.
Oh, great.
Very good man. Very good man.
Yeah. Oh, he's a good one. He's a good guy.
And the doctor is too.
I'm sure he is.
I give Kevin props, man. Kevin works his ass off. So.
Oh, he sure does, and I also need to say, we're going to have a whole roster of organizations for your program now. Treatnow.org.
Oh yeah, Robert over there. Yes.
Yes, Robert Beckman. So it's just like it sounds, TREATNOW.org. It focuses primarily on suicide prevention. And one of the key components is hyperbaric therapy. So one of the things they've done, if you go to the upper right side of their homepage, there's you can click on it and you can look for a veteran discounted hyperbaric facility near you. So they've created this list for around the country. So yeah, I hope some people can take advantage of that as well.
Yes. And that's one of the fields that I'm working the most in now is suicide prevention, especially with veterans. To let our audience know, too, I worked with Congressman Dave Joyce from Ohio, Congresswoman Amelia Sykes, who's my congresswoman here in Ohio, and Senator Sherrod Brown. The three of them and I wrote a bill or a resolution to get an official Veteran Suicide Awareness and Prevention Day for the month of September. It took quite a while with everything that's been going on in DC. That's all we'll say about that, folks. It's been crazy. It for some reason the House would not vote on it, but the Senate did. But they didn't vote on it until like October 1st. So September 30th was the official Veteran Suicide
Yeah.
Awareness and Prevention Day for 2023. We're now trying to work on getting it permanent, to have it every year, but on September 22nd.
I think that's fantastic.
Yes.
When we talk about suicide prevention, another procedure that we facilitate, Dr. Patel, Shunuk Patel, is doing a study right now with stellate ganglion blocks. Not that it needs a study; it's been around a long time, and it's incredibly effective. And it's for if you again, it's about the mania of the signaling, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's an injection into the stellate ganglion nerve, and again calms down that signaling, that fight or flight
Yes.
mechanism. And usually you need two procedures a few weeks apart from one another. But if I'd love for everybody, we have so much information. What is stellate ganglion block? What is this? What is PRP or hyperbaric therapy on our blog? So veteransinpain.org, go to our blog and just rip into it. And then at
Yes.
the top of that page is a link to our YouTube channel. There's not a ton on there, but there's some
But it's
very
very
good
informative.
information.
Yes, good information on there. Yeah, your website, man, it blows me away. There's so much information on there. It's just fantastic.
Oh, it's so fun.
I love your website. It's
Thank you.
awesome. Now,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
now we're kind of getting towards the end of the show here. So, folks, November 8th up here in Northeast Ohio, I'll be attending the Cleveland Veterans Resource Fair, November 8th. I'll post next week. I'll have the flyer and everything for it. November 10th, I will be participating in the Veterans Parade in downtown Cleveland. November 11th, I'm supposed to be speaking at two spots at the same time. So, but I will be in Canton, Ohio. I will have more information on that on November 11th. I will be talking about veteran suicide with a couple other organizations, and I believe Congresswoman Amelia Sykes will also be there. Then I will be doing a seminar at Johns Hopkins University on several veterans issues. They wanted me to do that also on the 11th, but I said, look, I can't be in two places at the same time. So they're trying to reschedule that to be at a later date. So keep watching the website and the Facebook page, and you'll understand. Now, for those of you who only listen to the audio, Veterans in Pain's website link will be in the description, along with a bunch of other information. And Micaela, if you can stay on after we go off the air here, that I'd appreciate that. And folks, please keep my friend Robert in your thoughts and prayers, and send his family some positive energy. His family can definitely use it, because his son, Lance Corporal Austin Schwank, was the young Marine who was murdered at Camp Lejeune last week. And so the whole Northeast Ohio community is hurting, because this family is very well known up here as far as what Robert does in the veterans community. Like I said earlier, he runs the Cleveland chapter of Irreverent Warrior, so he's always out and about helping veterans all over Northeast Ohio. So keep them in your prayers. And next week we have, who do we have next week? I can't remember who I have next week.
Oh, can I add something while you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to let everybody know, if you go to our website, click on treatment directives, and there's a lot of information in there on what to expect with regenerative solutions, but also anti-inflammatory lifestyle. So you can get the answers there too.
Yes. All right. And I got it, the website posted up again. All right, folks. I can't remember who I have on next week, but it is definitely a good show because I am booked all the way up to Christmas time. So once again, Micaela, thank you so very much. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's such a gift. It really is. I love visiting with you anyway, so it's a treat. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. All right. All right, folks. We'll see you next week.